live that I'll listen to as well.
Yeah.
But
So
just it's not for
He'll
me because
subject
I already know.
himself.
I already know
So
what you mean.
you just said all your listeners are dumb.
Yeah. They know. They're aware.
It's part of the role.
So one thing I realized early on with Bitcoin is that it's pretty much like a perfect form of money, except for one thing, which is fungibility, right? Which is like there's history involved with your coins. Coins aren't very fungible. So if you you hear stories of people sending some coins from darknet marketplace to Coinbase, and then Coinbase saw that and they banned their accounts. So which makes it not fungible, which means it's not very good money, right? If you go to a store and you look at your wallet, you have like $5 bills, you have to decide which one to use because they're not exactly the same, then it's not very good money. So that's one thing that's missing from Bitcoin. And there are ways to improve that with second layer, with like Lightning and other things. But I want to do something different with Litecoin, right? To try to improve it on the main chain, so to speak, but it's actually similar to a side chain, which is the extension block. So a technology that came out a few years ago was Mimblewimble, right? So there are a few coins that use Mimblewimble. There's Grin and there's Beam, and there's one called Mimblewimble coin, I think.
R.I.P. Grin.
Yeah, and
At least from a
coins,
price perspective.
those coins aren't doing well price wise, but the technology is very cool. Right? It's a way to add fungibility and privacy. I mean, it's not perfect fungibility privacy, but it's pretty good. It's better than what Bitcoin and Litecoin has right now, without sacrificing scalability. One of the main thing with all these other like fungibility privacy improvements with, like, for example, Zcash and Monero, is that they're not very scalable, right? They private transactions are 20 times, sometimes 100 times the size of regular transactions. So, and also takes a lot of CPU to generate them. So people don't use them and they bloat the blockchain. So Mimblewimble is a good kind of compromise with fungibility and scalability.
Do you think that's the future of privacy in crypto, like bringing privacy to the primary coins? Or do you think, like the Zcash pick your privacy per transaction thing has real legs?
I think the main coins would need to have some like better fungibility and privacy, whether that's through something like MWeb or it's through like Lightning Network or other improvements. I think there's going to be improvements on all these aspects. I don't think like a privacy focused coin is going to become mainstream, but I do think Monero is pretty good in terms of it's going towards the direction of just full privacy, right? Every transaction is private. It's not opt-in. So if people who are using Monero, they get all the privacy, right?
They get all the benefits of using it as money.
Correct, but except that it's not very liquid, right? It's not
Right.
on all the exchanges. It's hard to get in and out. But once you're in Monero, then it's all good, right? Once you have your money in Monero, but obviously not everyone. It's not accepted everywhere, so it's good for person-to-person transactions.
I'd love to ask a little bit about the rise of proof of stake and how in this cycle it feels like everything is proof of stake and everything new that is getting launched is proof of stake or delegate proof of stake or whatever. And how proof of work has maybe taken like a reputational hit, perhaps because of the people on Twitter who don't like the climate being damaged by NFT creators, or I'm not sure. As a OG, a crypto OG who mined alongside Satoshi and high-fived him in a slow motion action sequence before creating.
I've actually not talked to Satoshi. When I joined the scene, Satoshi was already gone.
We know that you high-fived him in a slow motion action scene. I watched it on YouTube. How do you feel about
Charlie
this?
Lee is in fact the only person in the world that knows Satoshi's identity. You heard it here first.
Yeah. How do you feel about this rise of proof of stake, do you think it's like bad for crypto generally? Do you think there'll be a whip back around to proof of work eventually?
Well, I think proof of work is what is innovative about this whole space in the first place, right? So even before Bitcoin, proof of stake was around, right? There are proof of stake. The idea of proof of stake has been around for a long time. Even so, what Satoshi brought that's new to the table is proof of work with blockchain. So that's what makes it interesting for me. So proof of stake is not very interesting for me. I think there are the attack surface is very different. I don't think it's good for money, but it could be good for Ethereum, for example. So for other things that don't need the security and the censorship resistance of money, I think proof of stake could work. But it's not very kind of interesting to me. I'm more interested in proof of work money, like Bitcoin and Litecoin and other coins.
Do you think?
Why do you think?
Go ahead.
After you, Ledge.
Do you think it's because proof of stake evolves towards few parties having control of the stake network, like Lido Finance and various exchanges might end up holding all the ETH and having the voting power? And if so, is that particularly different than like miners becoming dominant in proof of work?
I do agree. It's partially that, right? It's the people who are in power will keep on having more and more power. It's very similar to what we have, the current system we have today. It is, well, for one thing, with proof of stake, if the coin started off like decentralized, it's one thing, right? If it started off with one central party having like whatever 70-80% of the coins to start with, and then it's a proof of stake coin, then it's like it's kind of just one person or one group in power, and they keep holding power, right? Which is kind of silly for a decentralized cryptocurrency. So what am I trying to get at? So it's just, in most of these cases, it's not very exciting because it's not decentralized. It's kind of pretending to be decentralized, and it's a centralized. It's one company or one group of party controlling the majority of the currency, and then they're in control effectively because of proof of stake. Their coins, they have full control of the network, so they can do whatever they want.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. The narrative within the landscape of proof of stake and, really like any of these like VC-backed projects or whatever is decentralization over time. So it sounds like you're just not a believer that that's going to occur.
Yeah, I mean, history has shown that when you have power, you don't just give it up easily.
Gotcha.
Right.
But you don't think it's the same threat with mining, like where a handful of parties control mining of a particular coin, that it's a similar threat?
It's a little bit different. Where mining is more competitive, right? So everyone has equal footing. Anyone can get into mining. Just have to find cheap electricity and be able to get access to the hardware or build their own, right? So it's a little bit different. I think it's more fair. It's more decentralized.